On a sheltered beach in the south coast of Wales, a hidden world can be found, going unnoticed by many. This incredible and diverse ecosystem is that of the intertidal zone, hosting a plethora of uniquely adapted and deeply fascinating species.
Quite possibly the strangest of these coastal wildlife species is the sea anemone. In our area of study in Pembrokeshire, two anemone species can be commonly found, known as the Snakelocks anemone, Anemones viridis, and Beadlet anemone, Actinia equina.
But what do we know about these strange creatures? What do they eat and how do they catch their prey? What similarities and differences do the two species share? These are some of the questions that we will hopefully be answering for you in this short documentary on sea anemones. It's 8 AM and the tide is in, meaning this beadlet anemone is on the lookout for a meal with its tentacles outstretched. Unfortunately for most intertidal fauna, the beadlet anemone can have up to 192 tentacles, each covered in harpoon-like stinging cells called nematocysts. It uses these to inject venom into any creature unfortunate enough to wander into its grasp. These tentacles are arranged in 6 rows, radiating from the anemone's mouth, and are extremely sensitive to touch, gripping onto any tactile stimuli, making it a ferocious predator that can catch and feed on anything from mussels to small fish and crabs. This porcelain crab has made a grave mistake wandering across this beadlet's path. Once it has made contact with the anemone's tentacles, this aggressive predator immediately begins to draw the crab towards its mouth, encircling its body in a trap of deadly stings. After a large item of food has been dispatched down its tubular gullet, the beadlet anemone may contract for a period of up to 1 hour. Afterwards, it will expand to its fullest extent whilst it completes the digestion process.
Meanwhile, only a few rock pools away, a snakelocks anemone is swaying in the gentle swell of a rock pool, also on the hunt. Like its relative, snakelocks have very similar hunting tactics, stretching out their comparatively longer tentacles and waiting on an unsuspecting prey item to trigger their touch responses. Their diet also consists of the same smaller crustaceans and gastropods. However, due to their larger size range, some individuals can catch and consume larger animals that the beadlets cannot.
Beadlet anemones are known to be one of the most aggressive UK anemone species, being not only voracious predators, but also extremely territorial towards other individuals of the same species. This beadlet will fiercely defend its preferred patch using specialised bright blue stinging cells located at the base outer ring of tentacles called acaragi. Although appearing slow to the human eye, beadlets will engage in intense conflicts, flagging each other with these bright stinging beads, fighting for their territory. Amazingly, the wounds left by these beads can even be seen marking the beadlet's body.
Jumping back to our snakelock friend, we find it in a similar situation, engaged in a conflict with another snakelock for their shared territory. Unlike beadlet anemones, this species does not have acaragi and must instead simply strike opponents with their long tentacles. However, snakelocks are much less aggressive than beadlets and will often happily share spaces with many other individuals living in small groups.
To understand how these creatures are adapted to their environment, it is important to learn about their anatomy. Shown here is a diagram of a beadlet anemone's body. Actinia equina can be found in a range of vibrant colours, from deep reds all the way to shades of green. As can be seen, the foot of the anemone is called the basal disc. This is what allows it to attach itself firmly to its substrate and not get carried away by the swell of the waves. As we have previously discussed, the beadlet's tentacles catch and sting prey before dragging it towards the centre of its oral disc, which houses the mouth, and is used to consume the prey item. The prey then enters and passes through the gastrovascular cavity, where it will be digested and sequentially excreted from the very same opening. Actinia equina is a hermaphroditic species with individuals exhibiting male, female or both types of gonads, with female gonads being found in a central position near the gastrovascular cavity and male gonads found nearer the oral disc and base of the tentacles.
Like all intertidal species, anemones have had to adapt to the constantly changing tides. To prevent desiccation, or drying out, snakelocks inhabit lower areas of the shore, or rock pools that rarely dry out, to ensure they are submerged for the majority of the day. However, beadlet anemones have developed another way to survive at low tide. Their bodies are uniquely adapted to allow them to entirely retract their tentacles within themselves, sealing in moisture. This state is what gives the beadlets their characteristic red blob form, out of water that many of us are used to seeing.
Snakelocks anemones share very similar anatomy to beadlets, however, there are a few notable differences. Anemonia viridis colours include greens, greys and light browns. Their body plan is fairly similar to the beadlets, however, their basal disc is usually shorter and wider. On top of this, the tentacles of this species are thinner and longer than that of the beadlets, while also lacking their characteristic agar-agar. Another notable difference is the ability of the beadlet anemone to entirely retract its tentacles to protect itself and prevent desiccation when unsubmerged. The Snakelocks anemone does not have this ability, causing it to most often be found lower in the intertidal zone to ensure it is submerged for most of the day. Snakelocks anemones have repeatedly been recorded exhibiting an incredible natural phenomenon. This alien-like glow is called biofluorescence and is not actually caused by the anemone itself, but by the zooanthellae that live in its tentacles. These two species share what is called a symbiotic relationship, meaning that both parties benefit from their interaction. In this case, the algae photosynthesizes and provides the anemone with carbohydrate nutrients, and the algae is allowed a substrate to live on. Due to this relationship's reliance on photosynthesis, snakelocks have actually been observed tracking the sun with their tentacles to maximize photosynthetic productivity.
As versatile generalist species, beadlet and snakelocks anemones are incredibly important to the UK intertidal ecosystem. However, these beautiful animals are beginning to become more and more affected by the human impact on the climate. Higher temperatures are causing faster desiccation of the anemones when unsubmerged and increasing extreme weather events.
So what have we discovered?
Both species of anemone are ferocious predators in their ecosystems.
Violent battles are fought for the most desirable territories, particularly by the beadlet anemones.
Both anemones have uniquely adapted and specialised anatomy that allows them to thrive in their constantly changing intertidal zone.
Snakelocks can house algae in their tentacles that allows them to glow under UV light.
And finally, the importance of these species in this complex ecosystem and why they need to be conserved.
As generalist and versatile species, the beadlet and snakelock anemone play an incredibly important role in the UK intertidal ecosystem.
Fortunately, both these species are listed as least concern on the IUCN Red List. However, it is still important to consider our human impact on them.
To conserve these species, we need to reduce our carbon emissions to prevent faster anemone desiccation and extreme weather events, as well as ensure that we leave the shore as we find it, minimising our impact.
We hope that you now have a deeper understanding of these fascinating and mysterious creatures, and maybe next time you notice a jelly-like blob in a rock pool,
you'll take a closer look.